Coming to you live from my apartment, it's Rob Has a Podcast. And now here's the guy who lives in a proverbial plastic bubble, Rob Cesternino. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Amazing Race Final Four preview with the Final Four teams on the Amazing Race All-Stars. Very excited to have you guys here with us. Earlier time here on a Monday afternoon or evening, depending on where you are in the world, because it is the Amazing Race. And here with me, the always amazing Jessica Liese. Jessica, how are you doing?
I'm excellent, Rob.
Yes, so look, it's even daylight out at your house.
Yeah, I think when you said afternoon/evening, I was thinking maybe it's still afternoon here.
Yeah, no, it's the evening on the East Coast. It's the afternoon, late afternoon here on the West Coast, and we're going to talk about everything that's going on here on the Amazing Race as we head towards only 2 hours of Amazing Race left this season. Jess, are you getting sad?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sadder than I thought I would be at this juncture. I thought initially that I was going to be, just counting down the seconds until this thing was over, but I'm actually enjoying myself quite a bit.
Okay, good. Well, good to hear, because we have a lot to unpack here as we get through the Amazing Race All-Stars episode 10. We're going to take a lot of your questions here tonight. We're going to take a look back at some things that changed our perception over the course of the season. But most of all, we want this to be super interactive today and talk with you guys about the current season, because we don't have a guest here today, but I am looking forward to this because we don't really get a lot of chances to talk about what's happening now in the show, looking ahead to the final 2 weeks and looking back at the previous 10 with you guys. Usually when we have a guest, it's a lot of questions about the guests in their previous season. So we'll have an opportunity to have a little bit of a town hall forum here with the Amazing Race community. Right, Jess?
That's right. That's the plan, anyway.
That's the plan. All right, so go ahead. We've got the chat room going on robhasawebsite.com. Plus, we have our hashtag RHAP. Scott St. Pierre is monitoring Twitter. And, of course, you can post your questions on the YouTube video itself at robhasawebsite.com/YouTube. And, of course, if you missed it last night, on Sunday night, we had our Amazing Race for Hap-Up show. Jess and I talked about the use of the U-turn and all of that stuff. And then I talked to the Cowboys this morning, Jess, and I was told that the Cowboys were going to be very curt answers, very short answers and one words, and they were very lovely, the Cowboys.
Yeah, I thought it was an upgrade.
Yeah, so very good. One of the better exit interviews of the season for the Amazing Race.
Yeah, absolutely. They were wonderful.
So good job by Jet and Cord on the Exit Interview podcast, which you can listen to at robhasawebsite.com. All right, so Jess, where do you want to start here talking about our conversation tonight with these final four teams?
Well, I exhaustively cataloged all of our preseason predictions about everything we thought was going to happen on the race.
Okay.
And I thought that might be a fun place to start.
Sure.
Because I could give you some highlights of some of the earlier boots, and then we can go into what we said we thought would happen with the Final Four.
Can you make it into a game?
We can make it into a game.
Okay.
How are we going to do that?
What should the game be? Do you want to give me a prediction and I have to guess who said it? Did you want to see?
Well, the thing is, we arrived at a lot of consensuses. I don't actually have a list of like Rob said this, but Jess disagreed on this. There's like 2 or 3 points where we disagreed, and
all right, give me the first one and let me see if I can turn it into a game.
All right. So we predicted at the time we both knew that Bopper was going to get swapped out for Mallory. We were not allowed to talk about it, so we were making predictions about Mark and Bopper.
Yeah. And I don't want to say that we were not allowed to talk about it, but because that makes it sound like this is a communist podcast, and it clearly
like
is not.
Anybody actually cares what we say on here.
Yeah, because I just felt like at the time, one, I don't know who doesn't want to be spoiled. And so I don't know if that's a spoiler or not. So I sort of want to respect people who don't want to know that. And then also I try to keep a good relationship with CBS. And if CBS isn't telling people that Bopper's not going to be in the race, I don't want to, go out there and be the one trying to say, like, hey, everybody, guess what? Bopper's, if you know, you know. If you don't know, you probably don't care to know, and just let it unfold in the first minute of the show.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I don't want you to burn a bridge with CBS.
And again, if I know, like, if you know me, like, you can tell that I know.
Yeah, yeah, and I was really careful because I got accidentally spoiled about a lot of the race, like, as they were filming it, and I was trying really hard to avoid doing anything that might give it away to the rest of everybody. And in fact, I made my predictions, like, on day 3 of filming just so that we wouldn't have to worry about that.
Okay, well that's good. That was very considerate of you to do that, and also, and what did you end up predicting? You predicted the Cowboys.
I said the Cowboys were my cynical pick, and Dave and Connor were my sentimental pick, and I
Okay,
probably would have reversed that by the time we got to here.
yeah. Remember when Dave and Connor were the sentimental pick?
Yeah, remember when we loved them?
Yeah, they were my pick. I said, "Oh, David
Yeah,
Connor, what a great story it is."
they
And that
were
was,
they were in fact your semi-cynical pick.
yeah. Well, did I have a cynical pick?
You didn't really. You said you thought you told me who you thought you were going to root for and who you thought was going to win.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right, give us some of the. Let's start to go through these predictions, and let's see if we can turn this into a game.
Okay, we'll see what we can do. Um, when it came to Mark and his to-be-named partner, one of us decided that they felt pretty good about them, and the other one did not see them going far at all. Which one of us said which?
I think I said that I was feeling good about Mark and Bopper.
Yeah, you're right.
That's correct. But I think that I might have been saying it facetiously. I think might have been saying it like, boy, Bopper looks like he's ready to go the distance. Bopper really, he
That's
looks
probably
pumped up.
true.
Because honestly, I don't know when they recorded those interviews, but Bopper was like, "Man, I'm gonna go out there and I can't wait to rip stuff up."
And he yelled so hard he fractured his pancreas.
I think so. I think so. I really, it was bittersweet. I did not get to do a lot of Bopper impressions this season because if I do it for more than 10 seconds, I basically can't talk the rest of the week, but it is very fun to do.
Yeah, stick to like the smooth-voiced impressions. Definitely.
Okay. All right. So, what else did we predict early on in the season?
Well, I seem to remember the
Actually, you
chat
know what?
room was
Here's the game. Let's let the people in the chat room and the people that are listening play the game, and then I'll tell you what I think.
okay. All right. When it comes to John and Jessica, one of us predicted that they would be a lightning rod for controversy, which happened, and one of us predicted that they would feud with Brenchel.
Ooh.
We were both equally wrong.
Okay. So, all right. So somebody said they were going to be a lightning rod for controversy, and the other said that they would feud with Brenchel. I think I know which was which. All right. Get your. All right. So let's ask the chat room who thought that John and Jessica were going to be the lightning rod for controversy. Okay. Get your answers locked in. Now, Jess,
Are we
I
playing Who
believe.
Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yes. I know you love Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Oh, that's my favorite show ever.
And Meredith Vieira is your favorite too.
Oh, well, Meredith is perfectly lovely.
Okay. All right. So I'm pretty sure that the person who thought that John and Jessica was going to be the lightning rod was me, and I'm pretty sure that you said that they would feud with Brenchel.
You got your buzzer handy, Rob?
Oh
you're
no,
wrong.
I'm wrong. Oh no.
Yeah, you're wrong.
Oh no. Why did I say that they were going to feud with Brenchel?
Because we were spitballing, we're trying to figure out who would get along with whom.
See,
And,
now that I know more, I know that Brenchel, and now that I've really analyzed this, Brenchel gets along good with other couples.
yeah, that's true. But we never even thought about what their dynamic was going to be with Dave and Connor. Like, we didn't think about what anybody's dynamic was going to be with Dave and Connor.
Yeah. Okay. We just figured Dave and Connor were going to get along with everybody and be no drama.
Yeah, we definitely did.
That's where we were wrong. All right. What was another prediction that we made?
All right, well, here's another one we were really wrong on.
Okay.
With Jen and Caroline, One of us said that they were a likely pick to be the first team out, and the other one
Ooh.
said that we saw them going out middle of the pack, but definitely not doing as well as they did last time.
All right. Who said that Jen and Caroline were going to be the first ones out? Was it Rob or was it Jessica? I think I know this one.
All
This one
right.
I think I know. And I would say that, all right, everybody's locked in. I
Yep.
would say that I was the one that said Jen and Caroline were going to be out first.
Yes, you are
Yes, that's
correct.
correct.
But we were both wrong because they have at least tied their previous
But
performance.
I was more wrong.
All right, you were a little bit wronger. That's fair.
All right, let's do one or two more predictions.
All right.
Although, had it not been for the Cowboys giving them the express pass, they could have been out easily in the second leg.
That is very true.
Yes.
I'm trying to see. Oh, okay. Here's one. This one's going to be a little bit harder. With
Okay.
regard to the Afghanimals, one of us said the Afghanimals had 5th place written all over them, and one of us said they thought that they would tie their previous record of 4th place.
Oh, those are very specific predictions.
Yeah, I thought so. I don't know why we were so granular about that.
Okay. 4th place. Okay, so who said the Afghanimals would come in 4th place? Boy, that's tough. I will say that I predicted that the Afghanimals had 5th place written all over them.
You
Okay,
are
now don't
correct.
say if
Oh,
that's correct.
yeah,
Okay.
you're correct.
All right, give me. All right, so we've made a prediction about the Brenchel, right? That they or was that a prediction about John and Jessica?
Um, it was a prediction about both of them actually.
Okay, let's round out the final four. Give us Brenchel and give us Dave and Connor.
Okay. Well, I'm looking. We were at kind of a consensus on both of these, but one of us said with regard to Dave and Connor, and I listened to this. I thought it was pretty hilarious. We decided Dave and Connor were going to be the team that wanted to be all warm and fuzzy and friends with everybody, and that eventually a team would play dirty with them and they wouldn't know how to handle it.
Ooh. Okay. I'm trying to think who predicted that is the question?
Yeah, which one of us predicted that?
Boy, that sounds too smart for something for me to say. I'm going to say that is a Jessica prediction. I'll let everybody give a chance to lock in their answers on that. Jess, what say you?
Well, I'm the one that made up the question, so I already know the answer.
Okay, well, what is the answer?
The answer is that I was the one that said that.
Okay, there you go.
And I thought it was hilarious in both how right it was and how wrong it was.
Yes. Okay. Last one. Give us for Brenchel.
All right, for Brenchel. One of us said that we thought they were going to fall apart, and one of us said that we thought that they would go very, very far.
Yeah. Okay. So who was the team who said that they thought Brenchel would go far in the Amazing Race? And we'll link to this show. This was like a 2-hour preview show that we did, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
Oh my God. It was a long hot day in this office talking about the Amazing Race all afternoon. Okay,
Yeah.
I remember it well. All right. So the person that said that Brenchel was going to do well, that was me, right?
Yeah, that was you.
That was me. All right.
And
All right.
I said I was also feeling semi-bullish about them, but I thought they were going to come completely unglued. And
Yeah.
they have done the opposite.
There you go. You know that with the exception of Dave and Connor, all of the Final Four teams, this is not their first Final Four.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I
So
think
they've
that's
been
really
here.
interesting.
They've been here before.
And of the team that has not been to the Final Four, they've been steamrolling over everybody else. So
Yeah.
this is going to be a very interesting and very competitive final, I think.
Okay, so let's take some questions from you guys. JJ Rules 07 wants to know, instead of a U-turn where teams can only use it once, Can they use it more than once, like in Amazing Race Canada, or in other ways, like in season 2 of Amazing Race Australia? What do you think about this? We talked about this last night. Should you only be allowed to use the U-turn once? Do you like this idea of a multiple U-turn ability?
Well, I think what he's talking about with regard to season 2 of Amazing Race Australia is a much better idea.
What's that idea?
This is on certain legs before the leg. They had everybody vote on who they thought should get the U-turn, and they awarded the U-turn to that team.
Ooh. So we involve a voting element to it. I think that I like that, but that doesn't seem very Amazing Racy.
Yeah, it's a little bit, but they're always trying to inject that little bit of strategy into there.
Okay. Well, I would like that. But do you ever see that happening in Amazing Race US?
I would love to see it. I don't see it happening. Although I said at the beginning of the season that we were never going to steal anything from other seasons, and we stole an entire leg practically wholesale from Amazing Race Asia and Australia. So,
okay.
Stranger things have happened.
Spicy Wasabi wants to know, after this leg, do you feel the Afghanimals are still fully committed to the Accidental Alliance? Were they all in the first place when they joined the Alliance? What do you think? Were the Afghanimals really on board with the Accidental Alliance?
Hold on 1 sec.
Okay. Well, to answer the question, what I think that the Afghanimals were in the alliance and they were really excited about you turning the Brenchels. However, I feel like then when they actually had the opportunity to do what benefited them, they decided to not do it. So I think it's a little bit of a finesse issue where they were definitely on board with the group, but then when they sort of like were by themselves and not being peer pressured by anybody else, then I feel like they made the decision to do what was best for them and not go with the Accidental Alliance. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. But I think that they took this whole business way less personally than everybody else did. So they are not as, I don't think they are as invested. I think they're more interested in what's going to directly benefit them.
Okay. Can I ask you a question that I've noticed here, and this came to my attention last night? So we've been talking about why Brendan and Rachel are known as the Brenchels this season, where we said Brenchels is not plural. But people pointed out that on the shirt that Brendan and Rachel are wearing, and let me see if I can go to it. So if you notice that on their shirt, it says in plural, Brenchels.
It certainly does.
But it's Brenchels with an apostrophe. So let's sort of talk about that. So it's basically Brenchels with an apostrophe, and then there's the symbol, their sigil, I guess, of their dog, Ben's, which is underneath the word Brenchels. So it's almost like it says Brenchels dog.
Yeah, well, I think the concept of the Brenchel shirts has not really come across. The Brenchel shirt actually, it's Brenchel apostrophe S on the front, and then on the back it says back, because it's like, it's our back, and it says back, and Brenchel's back. And because you never see the back of that shirt, it doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so that's what it is. So basically the shirt is saying Brenchel is back.
Yes,
but because
and they really
of the apostrophe, that apparently maybe Dave and Connor, they don't really even know what Brendan and Rachel is, so they're just calling them the Brenchels because they think that's what they're supposed to be called, because it says on their front of shirt the Brenchels, like the Mets on the front of it.
Exactly, and also one reason you can't see their backs ever is because they carry backpacks around. They really didn't think this one through.
Yeah, they didn't think it through. Okay, so nobody thinks that their last name is back, like that's what's on the back of their jersey?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, good. All right, so now this sort of makes more sense as to why they're being called Brenchels, because it says Brenchels on the front of their shirt.
Yeah, I didn't make that connection just because I knew what was on the back of their shirts, so it didn't occur to me that people were thinking of that as a poorly stated plural, but that makes a lot of sense.
Sanjay Party Hard in the chat room says Brendan also referred to themselves as the Brenchels last night. So why are Brendan and Rachel referring to themselves as the Brenchels?
Because it's catching. They caught on to it. Everybody else is calling them that. They might as well reclaim it and call themselves that.
Okay, there you go. All right, so Phil Gourlay wants to know, Jess and Rob, compare this Final Four to the Final Four in Amazing Race All-Stars 1, Eric and Danielle, Beauty Queens, Charla and Myrna, and Team Cha-Cha-Cha. Now that it's mostly played out, which All-Stars do you feel like is the better All-Star season? All right, Jess, this is a fastball right down the pipe for you.
Yeah, it definitely is. I would say if you break it down to its component parts, first All-Stars was infinitely better than this one. But the first All-Stars also had the worst possible outcome. Like, there was a Final Four consisting of 3 teams that I loved and 1 team that I could not stand, and the team I could not stand was the team that ended up winning. So, any of the 4 teams winning Amazing Race 24 is going to be a better outcome than Amazing Race 11.
Okay. So let's go to the SUN98 from Sherwin. Wants to know, could Big Easy do the Bull Detour, or is he too big to fit in the bubble? Boy, I pity those poor bulls that try to knock over Big Easy.
Yeah, Big Easy, I think he would have rocked this task.
Yeah.
Although he's got a higher center of gravity, I feel like you could knock him over if you hit him in the right spot.
Yeah, especially that the bubble would have probably just been like a helmet for Big Easy, and he would have had a lot of his body exposed to the guys running into him.
Yeah, that's true, and his head might have been poking out the top of it.
Yeah. Did they have other size bubbles? Like, for instance, like if Charlotte and Myrna had made it to this challenge, is the bubble sort of one size fits all?
Yeah, well, I think it's kind of, everybody's about the same around. So there may be like a medium and a large, but I feel like everybody's kind of about the same around to get into the suits. And also, I got to notice that of everybody's center of gravity, I feel like Charlotte actually would have rocked this because she would have been very hard to knock over.
Interesting. Let's go to Zachary Chong, who says, what has been the smartest, best move of the race? Also consider an end of the season award show. Oh my God. All right. What has been the best move? We know Stephen Fishback hands out a fishy. Do you have a Liese? And if so, would you call it the Tidy Whitey Award?
I don't know, man. I don't know what I would call that, but I would say I've seen a couple of very smart moves that impressed me, and one of them is from a team that then kind of didn't do anything smart the rest of the race, which I thought Jen and Caroline getting the Cowboys to give them the express pass was I thought that was a really slick move that they did there.
Very good. That was a very good move.
And I'm trying to think, there have been a couple others that I quite liked.
How about Brendan and Rachel's bold move when they did they take 2 connections, or they got on the flight when they could have been stuck at the airport with Luke and Margie, but they went on a separate flight and went on their own thing?
I think that could have worked out either way. Like that could have been disastrous, or it could have been great. I don't know that. I think we have to chalk that one up to luck.
Okay. So let us know if you can think of any gambits that anybody took that played out well on this season of the Amazing Race. Brandon Bridges wants to know, if Brendan and Rachel doesn't U-turn Dave and Connor, does Dave and Connor U-turn Brenchel last night? If so, didn't Brenchel force Dave and Connor to waste it and save themselves?
I think he's asking if they would have the whole vendetta if they hadn't been U-turned in the first place, and I think the answer to that is I think they would have found something to be angry about.
Interesting, because should you then automatically U-turn somebody if you get U-turned? Because then you do waste the opportunity to U-turn somebody later on, or is it just completely self-preservation mode at that point?
Honestly, at that point, they didn't have to U-turn anybody, but I'm not sure that they knew that.
Okay.
So if you aren't sure and you know somebody is definitely behind you, I think you kind of have to use it.
All right. How about from Jeremiah Yap wants to know which is the most likely scenario? The final three comprising of the Accidental Alliance or Caroline and Jennifer getting fourth place again? All right. So let's sort of start to preview next week's episode. Which team do you think is going to be the next team to be eliminated?
Well, we should go through this team by team.
Good. And let's also, I
I
want to talk about the pros and cons of each team the rest of the way.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Like Dave and Connor, I don't think there's any way they're going out in fourth place
All
unless
right.
something
So let's talk about
catastrophic
this
happens.
from least likely to be eliminated next week to most likely to be eliminated. So I think we both agree Dave and Connor are the least likely to go home next week.
Yeah, I think there's zero chance of that.
Okay, and let's talk about sort of their pros and cons so far over these final two legs. I would have to say, as far as the pros go, they are probably the most balanced team in the entire race.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. Um, any other pros that you want to give to Dave and Connor?
I think they're physically very strong, and they only have one team out of three pissed off at them. So those are pretty good odds, right?
Yeah.
Better than having three teams pissed off at you.
They're pretty well liked. They seem to be able to figure out just about whatever they do. They rarely get lost or are on sort of like, it never feels like they're out of it. They haven't been towards the back of the pack seemingly the entire race. So they are just basically like pretty much a well-oiled machine. Even the leg they got U-turned, they still came in, what, third or fourth?
Yeah, and they solved that pretty quickly. They figured out what they needed to do. I would say the one thing that I noticed that is not operating in their favor right now is everybody that's left in the race has done 5 roadblocks each, except Dave and Connor. Connor has done 6 and Dave has done 4. And now we're at the point, right? They've all done, yeah. Anyway, everybody has done an equal number of roadblocks except Dave and Connor, and we're reaching the point now where Dave is going to have to start doing more roadblocks. And, owing to the fact that he is old and people are persecuting him on the basis of his age, he might run into some trouble. I personally, I think he's in great shape, and I don't think it's a huge concern, but it's something they've been carefully considering up to this point, and Connor's been pulling the majority of the weight, and I'm not sure that's what you want to do at this stage of the race.
Do you want to have some sort of consideration for this leading up to it? Do you want your stronger partner to have basically the opposite issue where your person that is better in the challenges has to do more down the stretch?
Yeah, I think you definitely want to save all of your strength for the final legs. I mean, we've always said that the only leg you have to win is the last one.
That's true. All right, so we'll see if that plays out. Any other cons for Dave and Conzer?
That was corny. Well, they tend to take things really personally, and they've gotten caught up in a lot of drama that people have not. Other people are less invested in it and less personally insulted by it. And I think if they continue to harp on that, that could slow them down.
Because you could let that destroy you. You really could. Like, you can't let that eat you up. You gotta just use it as motivation, but at some point you can't be too distracted with that stuff. And I think they've been a little distracted these last few weeks.
Yeah, they definitely have been distracted. I don't think they're putting their full attention on the game.
All right, let's go into the third least likely team to be eliminated next week. Who do you have that as?
I have that as, well, I don't know. I feel like this is a really close one. I think Dave and Connor we can write off right away. I'm going to put Brenchel in the other slot because just because of editing and because of the story they're trying to tell. If you want to put on your pen or voice now, this is a good time.
What is the story that we're trying to tell with the Brenchel? Are they Brenchel or Brenchels?
Yes, well, whichever one they are the underdogs, and they've been kind of the central conflict of everybody that's left, and you need that all the way into the last leg, so I definitely don't see them going out in fourth place.
Okay, you're going to have them hold on and get to the final three. So I would say, how about the Afghanimals? Where does this injury put Leo and Jamal?
Well, right up until this week, I would have said the Afghanimals were contenders to win it all because they're the ones that seem to have their heads in the game the most, and they've really impressed me with they're just kind of competent and they're getting through the course and they're not making enemies. But now I don't know how serious that knee injury is, and it could really have slowed them down.
I don't think it's going to be a big thing because we didn't see anything about it on the previews. And though I feel like the Survivor previews is like, okay, whatever they say is going to happen in the Survivor previews probably isn't going to happen. The opposite is going to happen. I feel like we didn't get anything about that. And I feel like we would have seen a little bit about like, Leo and Jamal's injury is definitely slows them down or something like that. Like, don't you feel like we would have seen something if that was going to be a factor?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how much they gave us about Dave. I'm not sure they gave us that much about him in the previews.
Well,
and that was definitely worse.
But the Dave thing happened like right at the end of an episode, and I feel like that they definitely would have had like going into the next episode, and I feel like we saw like Dave like I don't know if we can continue on. Now they did, so it was sort of like a red herring that they're not going to give up this week; it'll be next week. Yeah. But I feel like that maybe the episode where he got hurt, they didn't show us anything because it happened like 55 minutes in. But the following episode, I'm sure they must have said in the previews, like, Dave and Connor wonder if they're going to be able to continue.
Yeah, that's possible. And another thing I got to point out is we have talked to so many racers that say that they have done, terrible injuries to themselves. Like, ABBA running on 2 broken legs, and, I've heard about sprained ankles and all sorts of terrible things that have happened to people that don't get aired on the show, but directly or indirectly contributed to people getting eliminated if you ask them. So the fact that someone getting injured is actually a plot point, that suggests to me that it might be something serious.
Okay, we'll see. Now, was it, though, a plot point with their use of the U-turn?
Was it a plot point?
Because that's why they said they used the U-turn. So could it have already paid whatever plot?
Yeah, maybe we've already fired Chekhov's knee, is what you're saying.
Chekhov's knee for Jamal, which was why they changed their mind. All right, so then who do you have here as the third most likely to go out? So you feel like Brenchel and then the Afghanimals are second most likely?
Yeah, and then I think Jen and Caroline are probably the most likely to go out. They've just kind of been on a steady downhill slide the entire time. Like, they started out okay, they've done some smart things, and now they're kind of falling apart.
Now, Jen and Caroline last night, they basically stopped to say, "Hey, we're in the final four. People didn't think we were going to be here." Like, did you feel like that was them patting themselves on the back, or did you feel like that was part of a winner's edit that they were getting?
I feel like it's one of those things like when somebody gets voted out of Survivor, like the third person on the jury, and they say, "All I wanted to do was make the jury, and I did, and I'm so proud of myself." I think it was more like that.
Yeah. Okay. So the way we have it, we think Jen and Caroline will be, I'll be talking to them 1 week from today, and then we think Brenchel, Afghanimals, Dave and Connor squaring off in the final hour of Amazing Race.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that, but I'm open to the possibility of anything.
Okay, we'll see. Nick 2S says, have you observed anything that might pop up in a memory final task? Jess, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, we haven't seen anything very specific, and I think they always have one, but I think they've kind of caught on to the idea that if they put something really kind of obvious that people need to pay attention to, like hats, or in Canada it was flowers, people are going to take notes, and they're going to remember that, which kind of negates the memory task. So I think they're looking for something a little bit less obvious this time.
Do you have any idea what that could be?
I think, well, in past races, they had one, the season that the Cowboys were on the first time, they had one where they had to remember the order in which everybody went out. And they've had ones where they've had to put all the countries they've been to in order. And they had one with, I'm trying to. They had one with just the greeter itself, and he was a picture, and you had pictures of all these other people that weren't the greeter, and you had to identify which one you'd actually met, which I
Yeah.
thought was kind of cool.
The greeter was on a horse this week.
Yeah, yeah, the greeter was on a horse. I would like to see a memory task where they had a different animal every leg. That would be kind of fun.
Okay. Let's go to Tyler. Tyler M wants to know, is the Cowboys' lack of directional skills underreported? I feel like this has screwed them countless times. What do you think of this, Jess? Is the Cowboys' lack of direction skills holding them back in Amazing Race?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. I would say that's their second biggest weak point.
That they get lost all the time?
Yeah, they're always, they make up time on the tasks, and I think they kind of have relied on themselves to do that. But they definitely, like, when they were in China and they walked like 10 minutes in the wrong direction, and then this past time they were late getting to the airport, I feel like they assume that they're just going to catch up to everybody else at some point, and that has proved fatal for them.
Okay, that's interesting. That's an interesting weakness.
Yeah, it is. It's one that other people have had, but not
Although
quite
in
so.
Amazing Race, it does seem like quite a fatal flaw.
Yeah, it's not one you want to go in with. But I mean, many teams have screwed up on directions before, but they've never done it repeatedly the way that I think we've seen the Cowboys.
Okay. Alex G, how would the race have been different if it was a double blind U-turn? Oh, boy. Well, this would have been maybe totally different for Dave and Connor and Brendan and Rachel.
Maybe, but we kind of saw the U-turns get executed in front of their face. Like, I don't think there was anything really, like, there was nothing covert about that.
Okay, so, and what they always say is that basically everybody finds out who did the blind U-turn. So I don't know how useful the blind U-turn is.
Yeah, especially they couldn't have done it on this leg because everybody knows who's already used their U-turn. And basically, at this point in the race, you don't have a lot of options.
Okay. Spicy Wasabi X, traditionally the producers don't give the winners a villainous edit. So is it safe to say that Dave and Connor don't win? Do you feel like Dave and Connor have gotten a villainous edit?
I think they've gotten a negative edit. I wouldn't call it villainous. I don't think that that's necessarily true either. I feel like we have had winners who've gotten worse edits than Dave and Connor are getting.
I don't think Dave and Connor have gotten that bad of an edit.
No, I mean, they've said some kind of terrible things on camera that have gotten shown, but they are... Yeah, I don't think they're that terrible either.
I honestly don't even think they've said anything that's that terrible. If anything, they've been whiny. I feel like that's probably
a bad racer edit more than that. Like, they're just kind of, you see them complaining about, how these tasks are not designed for old people.
Yeah. So I don't think they've gotten that bad at it. So Brandon Bridges wants to know, if you're a strong team and you've been U-turned, does it make sense to wait and U-turn the next team that shows up?
No. I don't think so. I think you want to get your U-turn done and try to make up some time.
Waiting is bad on The Amazing Race?
I think waiting is almost uniformly bad on The Amazing Race.
Yeah. But I have to say, isn't it better to make sure you U-turn the right team rather than potentially guess who's behind you?
Yeah, you definitely want to have some idea of who is in the universe of teams you can U-turn. But I think if you don't have a clear idea and you're not sure how far behind you everybody else is, it makes no sense to try to figure that out.
Okay. Emily Stobbs wants to know, I'm sick of Dave and Connor being so butthurt for being U-turned. Will they ever shut up about it?
That's kind of a rhetorical question, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they will shut up about it.
I hope they shut up about it.
Maybe not during this season, but I think eventually they will.
Yeah, well, when you do your post interviews with them.
Yeah, well, it'll either be this week or next week. We're going to talk to them. They're either going to get eliminated this week or they're going to be one of the final 3 teams, and we'll talk to them eventually. And I'm sure that will be the number one thing that we will ask them about, unless something crazier happens these last couple of weeks. And I have a feeling that when I talk to them, it'll be like, here's my impression of what it's going to be like. I'll be like, all right, Dave and Connor, you guys, I got to ask you guys about the U-turn that you were very upset with, Brendan and Rachel. So are you still upset with Brendan and Rachel? And they're like, well, that was a while ago,
And
and
they're
we're,
lovely people, and
yeah, well, that's the heat of the moment, and we said some things that we like to have taken back, but we were just upset. So I have a feeling that they're definitely not going to. I'd be surprised if they'd be like, you know what, we still hate Brenchel. Screw them. I'd be surprised.
Yeah, I don't see Dave flying into a rage.
Nah. But maybe if I ask about it enough times.
Yeah.
Okay, so Matt Forsythe, in their previous reality seasons, it seemed like Rachel was the dominant member of Brenchel, but this season it seems like Brendan has been the major character. Do you all agree or disagree? What do you think? Has Rachel taken more of a backseat role to Brendan this season?
I don't know what show he's watching, but I
You feel
don't
like
think it's the one we're covering.
I would say that Brendan has been more assertive this season with being the leader of Brenchel, whereas I think in previous reality seasons, I think that Rachel's outbursts have sort of ruled the day, whereas in this season, I think that Brendan has been a little bit more driving the bus than as opposed to reacting to Rachel's outbursts.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there haven't been that many outbursts to react to, but I felt like he was having to do double duty reining it in last time, and this time he hasn't really had to do that, and he's just kind of been able to hang back and enjoy what he's doing.
Also, I sense that my interview with Brendan and Rachel, where I asked them about Dave and Connor, is probably going to be more interesting than when I asked Dave and Connor about Brendan and Rachel.
Well, that is definitely for sure. Well, I'm going to qualify that. I think it's going to depend on how drunk they are.
Well, I wouldn't imagine they're going to be very drunk. I do these interviews at like 10 o'clock in the morning.
I don't know, what time of day was it when you talked to him at Reality Rally?
Well, that was at a party at nighttime. I think
Okay.
that's much different circumstances. Now, maybe if they win the Amazing Race and they're out partying all night and then CBS patches me through to them and they've been up all night, maybe that'll be a different story.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. Zachary Zarnett Klein wants to know, logistics question for Jess. Is it true that the teams eliminated at Final Six and after continue running the race with production? If so, how does this work?
Oh, this is a very good question. I like that you asked this, Zachary Zarnett Klein. It is the teams that are eliminated at Final Six and after kind of run the race as decoys, and so like several hours before or after the racers are coming out onto the course, they will go and they will test out what's going on. They'll do the tasks. They'll have sometimes they have a fake cameraman following them. Sometimes they don't. I've seen clips of, I think it was season 13, someone actually got some footage of the fourth place team running a final three leg, and it kind of raised a big controversy because everybody had thought that the team had already been eliminated, and it turned out this was a decoy.
Could you talk more about the fake cameraman? How does that work? Is it a real cameraman with a fake camera, or is it a real man, or is it a real? What would be
all
the
right, it's
opposite?
probably still a real cameraman, but
Yeah.
he's probably just doing like lighting tests and things. I don't think he's actively filming it.
The camera's not on?
No, probably not. I don't know. It's all digital nowadays. They probably can leave it on all the time if they want.
Yeah, but you got to charge the batteries again.
True.
Okay. Nick 2S wants to know, would you rather have the show go to less locations and spend more time and money in each location, or go to as many possible locations but not have the most extravagant tasks, or remain as is? Boy, well, I'd hate to see what the less extravagant tasks look like.
God, no kidding. I feel like they just kind of bought all their tasks at Party City.
Yeah. It's like, in this detour, you'll, pin the tail on the donkey, the teams will spin around 3 times and try to pin a tail on a donkey. In donkey pin, the teams will try to knock over pins with a bowling ball with a donkey face on it.
It has to be in a country where they have donkeys so they can try to tie it in.
Yeah, it's
somehow.
like they're in Mexico.
Yeah. Donkeys are an important part of the local culture. Now we're going to pin a tail on one.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm not going to make any other donkey jokes. So, how about this, Jess? I would say I would much rather see less locations, more extravagant tasks. What about you?
I feel like you don't have to splash out on the tasks. This is a show about travel. This is a show about going around the world. It's not really a race around the world if you stop for a few days in every place. And I think you don't have to charter a plane to do skydiving at every single task. You can find ways around having to spend an enormous amount of money to get the results.
Okay, so you would rather go to as many places and do lackluster tasks?
Yeah, I mean we're setting up right now for them to go to 3 continents for the Amazing Race. And how is that a race around the world?
But do you want to see more, shaving balloons and ring toss and stuff like that?
I want to see more thinking outside the box. I think there's definitely a way to have cheap tasks that don't look cheap.
Like counting steps?
Yeah, like it is free to count steps, and that's definitely way more compelling than having to shave a balloon.
Yeah. I would rather see cooler tasks, but I bet more people probably agree with you.
Yeah, well, I think it depends on how people approach it. Like from if they came at it from a travel angle, like I kind of did, I think they definitely want to see the travel. But if they're coming in from other reality shows, like you obviously did, I think they're more invested in the actual immediacy of the moment rather than the scenery.
Okay, let's do two more questions. Is this season of The Amazing Race really amazing? And where does it rank amongst the other shows that you podcast? Oh, boy. All right, well, is this season living up to its name? Would you say that it is truly amazing?
I would not call it amazing, but I would call it sort of okay and exceeding my expectations.
I would say to rank it amongst and I won't get into post-show recaps, but of the three reality shows that I'm covering right now, this has been one of the best Survivor seasons. So this is clearly behind Survivor because it's been just a great, great Survivor season, and it looks to even be crazier down the stretch. At one point, I would say that the Big Brother Canada 2 got really, really good. But in typical Big Brother fashion, it sort of peaks in the middle sometimes, and then it's sort of like, okay, now it's sort of like the end game, and it's sort of really slowed down to a very slow pace. So I feel like at this point, I feel like it would be hard to really call a front runner between The Amazing Race and Big Brother Canada 2 at this point. I'd say it's pretty neck and neck.
Yeah, I would say that of the shows I cover, which is one show,
it's number one.
It is number one. Of all of the shows I cover, this is the best one. But I would say, yeah, Survivor's blown it out of the water this season.
Yeah, it's a huge Survivor season.
We needed it. We needed it.
All right, one more question. JJ Rules, which is the memorable moment of a team suffering injury minus Dave's ACL? Is there a more memorable moment? Perhaps, could it be when somebody gets hit in the face with a watermelon?
Well, there is that.
Yeah.
That was actually, weirdly enough, that was not the first one I thought of. Although
what'd you think of?
Easily the second. The first one I thought of was back in season 7. There was an older couple, Meredith and Gretchen, and they were doing a task that involved going into a cave, and you had to rappel down into the cave and then find a clue and come out. And somehow Gretchen ends up falling down and cracking her head pretty hard, and there's blood running down the side of her face, and she ran the rest of the race with this giant white bandage around her head. And they didn't stop. They went out at 4th, and this was very early in the race. So that was the one I thought of.
Okay. Here's one other question from Spicy Wasabi X, who wants to know, if Brenchel wins, will they replace Romber as the first couple of reality TV competitors? I feel like we're a little late to that party, no?
Yeah, I think that if you didn't achieve your first coupleness during the peak years of reality television, I think it's kind of a moot point.
I would say that like Rob and Amber are sort of like let me see if I can come up with a good reference here. I feel like they're sort of like the Black Eyed Peas but Boston Rob is Fergie, and it's like the Black Eyed Peas didn't break up, but he just like went on to go and do a lot more solo stuff. But I guess technically Fergie's still in the Black Eyed Peas. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense because we haven't seen Amber since they ran their Amazing Race All Stars. She has not been on TV pretty much at all.
Yeah. So, and Boston Rob has come back and played Survivor twice solo since then, and has won a season, probably had his highest high. So I feel like Brendan and Rachel have already displaced Rob and Amber as the first couple of reality TV right now.
Yeah, and I don't see anybody challenging them for that, especially not now that we think Hayden and Kat might be over.
Who knows? Who knows? Maybe somebody out there could make a better wrestling analogy. Maybe where that they were the tag team champions, and then Boston Rob went on to become the heavyweight champion, and did not left his tag team behind, but they didn't really break up.
Yeah, I think you could write a movie about that.
Maybe it's sort of like a Bret Hart and Amber would be Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and they didn't break up, but it just went on to have a solo career.
I'm so lost right now. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So, Jess, next week we will be back on Sunday night to preview the second to last episode, or to talk about the second to last episode of The Amazing Race.
Yes, it will have already happened.
Then I will speak directly to one of these final four teams in our next to last exit interview this season, and we'll be back here at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. And do we have a guest for that show that we can announce?
Oh, do we ever. This is the one you've been waiting for all season. I think everybody has been waiting for this all season. We are getting everybody's favorite team from last season. We're going to be talking to Marie, and she is talking to Tim. She doesn't know if he's going to make it or not, but we definitely have Marie. So,
all right, so definitely Marie, maybe Tim. We'll take it. Now, I saw a lot of questions from the chat, and people wanted to know that about your hair and if you have purple hair now. Is this a signal that Marie is coming?
If you want to take it like that, sure, but it's been like this for 6 weeks, and if you're just noticing it now, you're not watching the show carefully enough.
That's a burn for you guys in the chat room. Pay closer attention. All right? That's right. Because basically, just like the teams, there could be a memory task at the end of the season, right?
Yeah, but it would be a short memory task, I guess.
Well, you don't know what it's going to be about yet.
Yeah, right. I guess not. But I know people have been complaining at me that I don't talk enough during the live shows. That's probably why they didn't notice.
Okay, well that's good. Well, it's hard to talk to the guest and also get your insight in there too.
Yeah, and if you have the right guest, it's hard to get you in there.
Yeah, well, it depends. All right, and two more things. I know you have the Amazing Race party that you are setting up. Tell people about that.
Yeah, it's not going to be as big as TarCon, but we are doing a small get-together in the New York City area. So if you guys want to come down, it's going to be on West 45th Street on the 18th. I'm going to be there from about 7 o'clock on, and we're going to watch the show and drink some beer. It's going to be good.
Do people need to let you know ahead of time, or could they just show up?
They can just show up. I did put up a Facebook event, and I'll put a link up to it in the comments here. But so if you can RSVP, it's good for me, so I can let the owner know how many people we're roughly expecting. But I know a lot of people have told me verbally that they're coming, so I don't know for sure.
Okay, good. And then when they see you, they should give you the RHAP handshake so you know that they're there?
Yeah, it would help if I knew what the RHAP handshake was, but I think pretty much.
Oh, you don't have to be coy with it, Jessica. You're among friends. You can talk about it.
All right. Yes, there's a secret RHAP handshake. But even at TarCon, everybody seemed to watch the show. Just kind of came up and was like, "Hey, I'm this person." I'm like, "Oh, hey, that person." So yeah. It's not going to be a big thing. Yeah. Just come up and say hi. Yeah. And I'm going to be really excited to meet some of you guys.
Jess, so I mean, we're an hour into an Amazing Race recap, and we don't have a guest. We could talk about the RHAP handshake. That's, of course, when one person holds their hand out like it's a bell, and the other person rings the bell, and that's how that's the RHAP handshake, which signals a true RHAP friendship.
Did you make that up just now?
No, everybody knows that.
All right, if everybody knows that, then I have known it too all along.
Yeah. All right, and then so tell us also about the survey that you're putting together.
Oh yeah, I had a survey. I turned it off, but I'm collecting some information, just demographic information, like we do sort of near the end of every season, and we'll put up a link to that as well. And I collected some preliminary information about what people's favorite seasons and racers are, and it was very, very interesting stuff. And maybe will inform what I try to get together for next season.
Yeah, because Jessica really handles all of the booking. I'm sure you guys, as regular listeners, know this, that she, tracks down all the amazing racers, and she gets everybody on the show, except in some rare instances where I happen to know an amazing race person that Jessica doesn't, which is very, very rare. But so if you want to help influence the direction of the show in the future, Go ahead and look at Jessica's survey. I'll post a link to this on robhasawebsite.com in the show notes for this podcast. Okay?
Yeah, that's fantastic. And yeah, I'm pretty much limited right now to whoever I can stalk on Facebook. So, and whoever comes to me and says they watch the show and want to be on it, that goes far too. Just saying, if you've been on the show and you're watching this and you want to be on the show, I'm not necessarily going to come to you.
Okay. That was like a threat.
That's not a threat. It's just an invitation. It's an open invitation. You know where to find me.
All right. So then, big week coming up, of course. I will have the 24 post-show recap tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. We were meant to do it tonight, but Google is doing some updates, and we can't do a Google Hangout live tonight. But every week, typically, that'll be on at 10:15 p.m. Eastern. I also recapped this weekend's SNL on post-show recaps today. That episode is already up at postshowrecaps.com. And then Josh Wigler is going to have the next edition of the Game of Thrones book club as well tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. And then on Tuesday evening, this same time slot as this show, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, I will be speaking with one of the Big Brother 15 players. McCrae Olsen is going to join us to talk about the final week of Big Brother Canada with Brian Lynch, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on robhasawebsite.com. And working on a very big show for you guys on Thursday, a huge Survivor show. You needed this. This is going to be a huge, huge show. Very excited for that on Thursday. So good stuff, right?
Yeah. You certainly are the hardest working man in podcasting.
Well, again, damning with the faint praise.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, you're the hardest working man in reality TV podcasting.
Oh, well, that's doubly
That's even fainter.
Yes, very faint praise. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments. Tell us if you enjoy shows like this or if you feel like, you know what, get a guest in the future. Anyway, I had fun, Jess. Hope you did too. And
I definitely did.
Yes. Have a good night, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye.
All right, bye.